So it's 5:29 by my clock. This is the regularly scheduled Board of Public Works meeting for February 27th, 2024. We're here in council chambers, and we also have a Zoom link as part of the agenda. So we've got some folks attending virtually, it looks like. And our third board member, James Roach, just joined virtually as well. So we will have our third. Welcome, James. We'll check your audio here in just a second. So we'll get started here in just a minute. For those that are online and would like to offer any public comments during tonight's meeting, you can use the chat function, or you can use the raise hand function for each of the individual items that you might want to offer public comment on. If it's for an item that is not on the agenda, that will be during part 2 of the agenda, petitions and remonstrances. So that's for items that are not on the agenda this evening. Otherwise, James, let's check your audio real quick, make sure we can hear you. I'm going to make you a co-host. Yes, and then you should be able to unmute yourself now.
All right, can you hear me?
Yep, perfect.
Can you hear us okay?
Yes.
All
Okay.
right.
Oh, and there's James on my screen. I don't know how we'll get you on. James, if you do, when you have questions and such, if you can do raise hand, that will help me as I try to navigate the meeting, okay? Perfect.
Sounds good.
Awesome. And Kelly's going to do something.
Oh, I thought maybe speaker, there he is.
There he is.
Perfect. Okay. That's why we have smart people like Kelly. All right, I'm going to go ahead. So yeah, again, this is the regularly scheduled meeting of the Board of Public Works for February 27th, 2024. I've got 5:31 p.m. We've got 2 members here in person, Kyla Cox-Deckard and Elizabeth Carone, and we have James Roach, our third member, on the Zoom link. So I'll turn it over to Board President Kyla Cox-Deckard, and we'll get started.
Thank you. I call to order this regular meeting of the Board of Public Works this Tuesday, February 27th of 2024. First up, we have messages from board members. Do we have any messages from the board this evening?
I have none.
All right.
None here.
Thanks. Seeing none, we will move on to the next item on the agenda, which is petitions and remonstrances. This is the opportunity for anyone who would like to make a public comment about something that is not on the agenda to do so at this time. I believe we may have people who are interested in making public comment about something not on the agenda. We will allow 3 minutes per person for that public comment. And if you are interested in making that comment, if you are in person, you may approach the microphone. If you are on Zoom, you can indicate that you're interested by either using the raised hand function or typing something in the chat. And I will ask, as each person who comes forward to make a comment, if you'll please just state your name so that we can accurately reflect it in our record. And I welcome our first comment here in person.
Thank you. Good evening. I'm Elizabeth Mitchell, historian of African American culture and experience here in Monroe County. I am here to ask for a marker to be installed to honor and recognize the first Black fireman for this city. His name is James Snooky Hopkins, and this is the reason why. The city of Bloomington's fire department became the first full-time paid department in Monroe County on February the 17th, 1900. 65 years later, in 1965, the city of Bloomington, under Mayor John Hooker, hired the first Black firefighter, 23-year-old James Snooky Hopkins. Firefighters face danger while depending on their coworkers to protect them from harm. Only the brave accept those risks. Mr. Hopkins faced inherent dangers while knowing that those on whom he depended on didn't want him there. Many white firefighters at that time would not speak with him, nor would they eat with him or sleep in a bed he had slept in. And he received death threats from the public. His wife received threatening phone calls that their house would be burned down. He was treated like this not for 1 year, not for 2 years, but for 3 years. In the face of such persecution, Mr. Hopkins persisted despite being faced with a hostile environment intended to drive him away. That was bravery on top of bravery. In 1985, he was promoted to the rank of captain at station number 2 that was located at 102 South Rogers Street. Over his 27-year career, ending with his retirement in 1992, Mr. Hopkins found substantial acceptance by his white colleagues as he showed his professionalism and his strong work ethic. Pioneers like Mr. Hopkins paved the way for better understanding and successful integration in the workforce. James Snooky Hopkins deserves recognition for this commitment to desegregating the workforce at the Bloomington Fire Department under stressful circumstances. It is the desire of the African American community to have a Monroe County African American cultural site marker placed at 102 South Rogers in the grassy right-of-way area to recognize him, James Snooky Hopkins. And of course, we also would like a marker established at Switchyard Park for the Underground Railroad. But we would like to have this done for the 2024 Juneteenth celebration. We have a lot of support for this endeavor from several groups and organizations, the NAACP, the Bloomington Board of Realtors, Bloomington, the Greater Bloomington Chamber of Commerce, Don Owens, FOP, and the Monroe County Senate Democratic Party. Thank you so much.
Thank you very much. All right, I see another in-person comment.
Hi, Roger Kerr. I'm the chief of the City of Bloomington Fire Department. I just want to say we support this completely. A very fitting tribute would be to Captain Hopkins, that he gets recognized for what he did go through and what he brought to the department and the City of Bloomington. So thank you.
Thank you.
Hello, fellow citizens. I'm Audrey McCluskey. I'm Professor Emeritus of African American Studies at IU. And I want to put this in a broader context. Of course, we're here to talk about Snooky, Mr. Hopkins, but I think we need a broader historical context. And what I'm calling that broader context is the fallacy of the first. And so that I won't go over my 3 minutes, I have some notes that I'll just read from. There are 3 reasons for this fallacy. The first is based upon an incomplete narrative. It does not tell the whole story. When we say someone is first, what came before that? Secondly, it rewards the gatekeepers who now bestow this well-deserved honor on the recipients without acknowledging the pain and suffering that those who were first have surely faced. Jackie Robinson faced it. The Little Rock Nine faced it. All of the firsts have faced it, and certainly Mr. Hopkins was no exception. So that's a fallacy, that the first should be rewarded, but by gatekeepers. What about all the ones who came before, equally qualified, who were turned away? So we need to extend this and think about the history that we have made. And thirdly, my final point, it glosses over the fact of systemic racism that has kept this first going on for far too long. It was the prime obstacle that kept other qualified African Americans and the people of color and women from even being considered, least of all, hired. Yet, and this is my concluding point, I follow the dictates of the Reverend Dr. Martin Luther King, who said, it's always the right time to do what's right. So now is the right time, as you proceed and ponder over this, it is now your right time to do the right thing. Thank you.
Thank you.
My name's Lee Chapman. I'm retired, 32 years from the City of Bloomington Fire Department. I'm in here for support of it as far as a bunch of other retired firemen who support this. You know, we look at Snook as the first African-American hired by the city, but I look at this man as more than that. I mean, this guy, the odds were stacked up against him, and most people would have walked away. But this was a man. This was a man that didn't walk away, and this was a man that had a fantastic 27 years at the Bloomington Fire Department, and he did it with honor as a captain. I didn't work directly underneath him, but anytime I was around him, he had a smile on his face, and he always had good words for me, and he was a leader, and he deserves this. Thank you.
Do we have other commenters here in the room on this?
Hello, everyone. I'm Nancy Cross Harris, and I've known this man, Snooky James Hopkins, for over 40 years. Just always been wonderful. Me and my husband, Robert Harris, over there, whom he took under his wing, broke down that barrier for him and some of the other firefighters to be able to come in. My husband spent 32 years in the fire department because of Snooky James Hopkins. And, you know, this is for him. This is an honor that he deserves, and it should be one that's put in place. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Do we have other commenters here in person? All right, do we have any comments on Zoom?
Comments on Zoom. I'll just take a quick moment here. Again, Adam Wason, Public Works Director for the City of Bloomington. First, I just want to thank Mr. Hopkins for his service. And secondly, I'd like to just let everyone in the room know that Ms. Mitchell reached out to us over the last few weeks about this. We've got a lot of great information. I'm working very closely with the mayor's office and others in the administration on how we can get this moved forward. I'm pretty certain it's going to receive all the support it needs, but we just need to come up with that process to make sure we do it the right way. And so we'll be doing that over the next several weeks and be in good touch with Ms. Mitchell on what the next steps will be and how we can get this implemented per everyone's wishes, and we'll work with the board at that time to get the final approval. So thank you all for coming this evening. Thank you for sharing the story of Mr. Hopkins for the community. It means a lot, so thank you very much.
Thank you all.
Thank you. And I just want to echo thanks. Thanks for taking the time out of your evening to come here to this meeting. We appreciate that. Thanks. All right. If there are no other petitions or remonstrances related to something that's not on the agenda, then I will move on to the consent agenda. Sure.
Madam President.
Yeah.
Folks, you all don't need to stay for the business part of the meeting unless you really, really, really want to.
We
but I'll
won't
give
be
you,
offended.
I want to give you a moment to, do what you
Yeah,
need.
we
So.
will not be offended by your departure.
Thank you.
Thanks. All right. Next up, I will move on to the consent agenda. Under the consent agenda this evening is approval of minutes for December 5th of 2023. 2024 ITS Bloomington Digital Underground Advisory Committee appointments. Resolution 2024-008, declaration of surplus from Bloomington Police Department. Resolution 2024-009, new mobile vendor Kebab on Wheels. Renewal number 1 with TAPCO for traffic signal inspections. Metered parking reservation request from Gillette General Contractors on South Grant. Intermittent alleyway closure request from Mother Nature Landscaping between Madison and Morton. That's February 1st, 2024 through June 9th of 2024. And approval of payroll. Do we have any items that need to be removed from the consent agenda this evening?
None here.
Seeing none. Do we have any public comment on anything within the consent agenda this evening?
I forgot to record.
Oh, I forgot to remind you.
Recording in progress.
It'll be on Cats.
It'll be on Cats. Thanks to Cats.
All good.
Shout out. All right.
Hang on, let me get everybody back in here.
All right. If there are no public comments on the consent agenda, I will call for a motion.
I move that we approve the consent agenda for tonight's meeting of February 27, 2024.
Second?
All right. We have a motion and a second. I will call the roll. Carone?
Aye.
Roach?
Aye.
Cox-Deckard, aye. Motion passes. Next up is new business. First under new business is road and sidewalk closure request from Milestone Contractors for the 3rd and Smith project.
Hi. Excuse me. Kyle Ball with Engineering Department. So Milestone Contractors are requesting road and sidewalk closures on Smith Road at the State Road 46 intersection for a intersection improvement project. This project is planned to take place in 2 phases. Phase 1 being the south side from March 12th to April 26th, and then they'll move to the north side on April 29th, and then wrap up on June 13th. They have planned detours for pedestrian and vehicles for each of those segments. They are coordinating with Bloomington Transit, MTCSC, and Emergency Services. In great communication with the engineering staff. Any questions that have come up, they've been right on top of everything, so overall in good shape.
Very good. Are there any questions from the board on this item? All right, seeing none, is there any public comment on this item? All right, seeing none, is there a motion?
I move that we approve the road and sidewalk closure request from Milestone Contractors for the 3rd and Smith project.
Second?
All right, we have a motion and a second. I will call the roll. Carone?
Aye.
Roach?
Aye.
Cox-Deckard, aye. Motion passes. Next up is sidewalk closure request from Cardinal Hardscapes on South Euclid.
Engineering again. Cardinal Hardscapes, is requesting a 3-week sidewalk closure for a residential driveway installation on South Euclid. Working close with the contractor on this to make sure we have a good MOT for it. Should be a low volume pedestrian area with easy detours for the other side of Euclid.
Thank you. Questions from the board on this item? All right, seeing none, is there any public comment on this item?
All right, there's no more public online other than James, so.
James is going to hold down the Zoom presence this evening. All right. Do we have a motion on this item?
I move that we approve the sidewalk closure request from Cardinal Hardscapes on South Euclid.
Second?
All right, we have a motion and a second. I will call the roll. Carone?
Aye.
Roach?
Aye.
Cox-Deckard, aye. Motion passes.
Thank you.
Thanks. Next, we have lane and sidewalk closure request from MW Builders on Gorley and Kinzer Pike.
Hi, this is Alex Gray from Engineering. So this is MW Builders. They've been working on the Aspen Heights project, which is off of kind of Gorley Pike and Kinzer Pike area. And part of their kind of last stage, I would say, is kind of doing the driveway aprons that are off of Gorley and off of Kinzer, and then also the sidewalks in that area, and kind of doing some restoration work off of those. So in those, they need to do some lane closures is what they've requested. They have a month for both. And we have asked them to do Kinzer side first. That way they can get that one done and completed, especially considering the sidewalk has remained closed for an extended period, which we have communicated with them and have been trying to work with them to get that fixed up. So And then this one, the month plan is from, essentially, if it's approved tonight, it would be from tomorrow until March 28th to be done.
Questions from the board on this item?
Just to note that on one of the maps included in the packet, it says that each homeowner and business shall be notified of work zones and flagger operation. Just want to make sure that you've been happy with contractor's response and that there's been outreach to the neighborhood.
I haven't asked them on the outreach part of it, but I do know that they have worked with us. If we have an issue, that we let them know, and then they will fix it pretty quickly.
Thank you.
For example, like we had noticed that they didn't have signage up for the sidewalk closure. At least they had some, but they didn't have all. And so we'd asked them, and they completed it very quickly.
Can we make sure that they do get in contact with the adjacent businesses? And I believe that's where you've got the funeral home there, maybe? Is that?
It's over by Von Clipley.
Yeah. Just as we need to make sure those notifications do occur with those property owners.
I can do that.
Yep. Thank you.
And I believe this was the item we discussed yesterday that I had asked about the pedestrian access way and how that was going to be handled, because I think that there is a spot where there is no sidewalk, and there's no sidewalk on the opposite side of, I think it's Kinzer was the one we
Yes.
were focused on
That
during
is
the work
correct.
session. Is there a plan for a walk around or some sort of clear detour for pedestrians there?
I think the plan that we have kind of just mainly discussed was getting the sidewalk portion, because especially considering there's a bus stop there, getting that portion done first, and then that way they can use that and complete the path while they complete the rest of the driveway apron, which is a little bit more south of that. But we are going to discuss further with them because it hasn't been completely laid out with them, and I'm not sure if they're, you guys are here? You want to discuss how you're going to do more of it?
Yeah, if you want to come over here and just speak into the microphone, that way we get that connected. If you could just introduce yourself, that'd be great. Thanks.
My name is Toby Gower with MW Builders. So right now, no, there is not a workaround for where that sidewalk, the sidewalk dead ends right there at the entrance to the new property that we're developing. So we have that sidewalk that was torn out at the time under a water right-of-way permit for our off-site sanitary sewer. We have that set up and ready to go. So all we would, as soon as we got the permit in our hand, we're ready to place that sidewalk back to provide that access. There really is no workaround, but I could probably have that sidewalk in before the end of the week.
Yeah, that'd be great. Thanks.
All right, thank you.
Any other questions on this item? All right, seeing none from the board, are there any public comments on this item? Seeing none, is there a motion?
I move that we approve the lane and sidewalk closure request from MW Builders on Gorley and Kinzer Pike.
Second.
All right, we have a motion and a second. I will call the roll. Crone?
Aye.
Roach?
Aye.
Cox-Deckard, aye. Motion passes. Next up is approval of public improvements bond for 1100 South Brooks Drive.
I'm Maria McCormick from Engineering. This is a request for approval of a public improvements bond stemming from a subdivision at 1100 South Brooks Drive. This is for the public improvements, including the sidewalk and street trees that are required by the UDO as part of the subdivision.
Thank you. Questions on this item? James, do you have any questions?
I'm sorry, no, none here.
All right. Any public comment?
No.
Seeing none. I'm assuming we didn't gain any audience members in this time. Okay, seeing none, is there a motion?
I move that we approve the approval of the public improvements bond for 1100 South Brooks Drive.
Second.
All right, we have a motion and a second. I will call the roll. Crone?
Aye.
Roach?
Aye.
Cox-Deckard, aye. Motion passes.
Thank you.
Thanks. Next up is contract with Irving Material, Inc. for concrete materials.
Good evening, Adam Wason again, Public Works Director, on behalf of Joe Van Dievender with our Street Operations Division. So we received quotes in yesterday, opened those at the board work session. Irving Materials Incorporated, also known as IMI, was determined the most responsible and responsive bidder, or with the most responsive quotes, and we do recommend approval of this. This will be for Class A concrete at $154 per yard. Or for the Class A, the 4,000-pound exterior mix is $149 per yard. For 500 plus or minus, it's the Class A concrete with 1% calcium at $160.50 per yard. For the 4,000-pound exterior mix with the 1% calcium, it's $152.75 per yard. For the Class A concrete with 2% calcium, it's $167 per yard. For the 4,000-pound exterior with the 2% calcium, it's $156.50 per yard. For the 200 plus or minus, it's Class A concrete with the reinforcement comes at $171.50 per yard. And if we add the fiber to that, it is $156.50 per yard. For flowable fill, it's $132.50 per yard. And then there are some trip charges. If it's less than 200 yards, it's $200 per. If it's less than 2 yards, it's $200 per trip. If it's less than 4 yards of concrete ordered, it would be $150 per trip. And if it's less than 6 yards, it's $100 per trip. So after reviewing all their submittals, had a great relationship with IMI in the past, for the past several years with this, and we do recommend your approval.
Thank you. Any questions on this item?
Please
I have
don't.
a couple questions here online.
Yep.
Is this for a specific project, or is this for ongoing services as needed?
Yes, I'm so glad you didn't ask me to describe the differences in the calcium and whatnot.
That was the next question, Adam.
So this is kind of like our on-call contract for the street division. So if we're out doing ADA ramps in advance of a paving project and we need concrete delivered for that, this is what it falls under. So we have so this is our overall concrete needs for the street division, not for specific projects. It's more for our ongoing usage.
Great. And how long would this contract be good for?
This will be for 2024, and I believe it's got an option for renewal. Yep.
Great. Thank you.
Yep.
Any other questions from the board? Any public comment on this item? Seeing none, is there a motion?
I move that we approve the contract with Irving Material, Inc. for concrete materials.
Second?
All right, we have a motion and a second. I will call the roll. Carone?
Aye.
Roach?
Aye.
Cox-Deckard, aye. Motion passes. Next up, we have staff reports and other business. And under staff reports, we have flow chart for Title VII right-of-way permits.
Actually, that's for the Title 12. We're going to do that at the next work
Title
session.
12.
Yeah, we're going
I'm
to do
sorry.
that at the next work session and meeting. Andrew really wants to be able to kind of present that. But we do have Alex Gray here with engineering. She's going to give a quick update about a lane closure on Morris Pike to facilitate our side path project.
Okay, great.
Yeah, so as, I'm Alex Gray, and then as kind of Adam was kind of alluding to, we have a side path project that is over on Morse Pike that's going to be coming through, and this is between Valley Forge Road and Cape Cod or kind of High Street, that area, and on the south side is where the project is. But ahead of that, there's some utility relocation that needs to happen, and it's for Zayo, and so they are requesting a kind of intermittent lane closure in that area. That way they can move some of their underground fiber on aerial. And in order to do that, the shoulder is tight in that area. It has a steep grade, so they just want to be cautious and take kind of the lane for that time. So for transparency's sake, we wanted to bring it before the board because it could be longer than 3 days. It may not. We're not totally sure. They estimated they have it as like a week, but it could be shorter. So we just wanted to bring it for you guys. But we do want to have it go through as soon as possible so that project can go through.
Can you clarify which section of Morse Pike this is again?
It's the Valley Forge Road and kind of Cape Cod area, or by high end, I think it's College
East
Mall.
of High?
Yes, that's correct.
Is that the north side of the street or the south side of the street?
It's the south.
Okay.
Does this have the guardrail?
The part that I have is not part of, like,
Okay.
this is just the utility relocation.
Yep.
In
So-
terms of the project, I'm not totally sure on the details of that. Zach Rogers is the project manager on that part.
Yeah, so James, if you can think of the area along Morris Pike there on the south side of the road that's adjacent to the tennis courts of, is that Southeast Park there? Yeah, at Southeast Park. There's going to be some trail side path improvements there, and I believe we're also going to be adding a guardrail in that area where it kind of dips down, if you can visualize that. So yeah,
Oh,
but
so is that part east near the park?
yes.
Yes.
Yep.
Okay.
Yep. And so this is just to facilitate some utility relocation for the project and stuff. We'll be back in front of the board as needed for other approvals.
Will this short closure need flaggers or signs, or how will that?
It'll likely have that, yes.
They'll do full MOT, yes.
Yes.
But for this short closure, the
Yes.
3-day closure, there will be a full MOT?
Yes, they will
Yes.
have to have the MOT. in
They've
place.
submitted their application. It's just that they got it to us, and then, like, we don't want to delay it to the next board.
Gotcha.
Because the project, it would just push the project of the trail back further, because they need this utility to go through and actually get out of the way. Otherwise, they're going to be ripping through fiber.
So staff level approval, and you'll approve the MOT as part of that?
Yes, and then for any other lengthier closures
Sure.
for the project, et cetera, we'll be
Yes.
back in front of the board.
Okay, thank you.
Yep, you're welcome.
Thank you, Alex. I'll only add a few things. I don't think we've had a meeting since the snowstorm of a few weeks ago, or did we? I can't even remember.
Not the one, we had that Friday snowstorm. We haven't had a meeting
Yeah,
since
yeah.
that.
And so just wanted to thank all of our crews that were out that evening. That was a tough go of it a couple Fridays ago with the main amount of accumulation occurring between that 3:45 and 5 p.m. hour. That was just a real struggle for them, but the crews did great, so thank you to them. Tonight, this evening, we are possibly expecting some severe weather with thunderstorms and possible worse. So we do have crews on call this evening. Looks like it could be in the overnight hours, so make sure you don't have your earplugs in case we do get severe weather this evening, but crews are ready and on call to respond as needed, so hopefully all for naught. That's all I have.
Thanks. And I was just going to offer just a really brief recap. We did have a staff presentation during the work session about West First Street and the closures happening West First and Rogers. So just for the public's awareness, there are going to be some extensive closures there on Rogers and First Street. And so if you're someone who travels through that area, just be aware that you'll soon likely see signage indicating that those areas will be closed for some of the construction adjacent to the Hopewell area. So just a quick recap. All right. We're on to claim. Oh, sorry, James. Go ahead.
Sorry, do we need to take action on the Morse Pike?
No, it's more of just a staff report to let you know that we're doing, so we have the ability to do some administrative approvals through city engineer and myself, and we're doing this one as an administrative approval.
Great.
All right. Next up is claims. Are there any questions from the board on claims?
I have none.
Okay. All right, seeing
None here.
none. All right. Is there any public comment on claims? Seeing none. Is there a motion on claims?
I move that we approve claims tonight in the amount of $1,702,752.41.
Second?
All right, we have a motion and a second. I will call the roll. Carone?
Aye.
Roach?
Aye.
Cox Deckard, aye. Motion passes. And if we have nothing else, I will call for adjournment.
Aye.